Good day, everyone. Today we will be discussing about authentic assessment in mathematics. Authentic assessment breaks the traditional paradigm of multiple choice or automatically scoring tests and quizzes. Authentic assessments ask students to actively participate in situations that require them to apply the principles they've learned. Which can lead students to believe that learning means staying up all night and cramming to memorize terms or expected answers. Instead, authentic assessment tend to be more student-centered. They ask students to demonstrate their learning through hands-on activities. Thus, learning isn't about recalling, it's about performing, which ideally will motivate students to engage in the course and succeed in their endeavors. Authentic assessment in mathematics. There is a growing consensus among many educators that the fundamental goals of teaching and learning mathematics are to help students solve problems of everyday life, to help them participate intelligently in civic affairs, and to prepare them for jobs, vocations, or professions. School mathematics should diminish the role of routine computation and focus on the conceptual insights and analytical skills. The new mathematics curriculum combines new as well as traditional topics. Mathematics is presented to students in the form of rich situational problems that actively engage the students. The situational lessons or the real-life problems attempt to include four dimensions. These are thinking and reasoning, settings, mathematical tools, attitudes, and dispositions. The learning helps students acquire mathematical power to cope with ambiguity, to perceive patterns and solve unconventional problems. It is now widely believed that assessment must be an integral part of teaching, so that it is used as a tool not merely to collect data but also to influence instruction. Because tasks that require mathematical thinking in pursuit of a result that has meaning to the student have essentially the same character as instructional tasks. They also have meaning for teachers and therefore are useful for improving instruction. Authentic assessment in mathematics task requires students to formulate problems, devise solutions, and interpret results. Through this way, performance tasks should increasingly become the basis for judging mathematical achievement in the success in technological world. Developing authentic assessment in mathematics. First is identify learning objectives. What should students know and be able to do? Identify your standards for your students. Second is define relevant tasks. What indicates students have met these standards. For a particular set of standards, develop a task your students could perform that would indicate that they have met these standards. The third one is identify essential performance criteria. What does good performance in this task look like? Identify the characteristics of good performance on that task. The criteria that, if present in your students' work, will indicate that they have performed well on the task, like they have met the standards. Four is to develop a rubric. How well did the students perform? For each criterion, identify 2 or more levels of performance along which students can perform, which will sufficiently discriminate among students' performance for that criterion. The combination of the criteria and levels of performance for each criterion will be your rubric for that task or assessment. The fifth one is the conclusion. What do students need to improve upon? Let's proceed on how to score an authentic assessment. Scoring an authentic assessment is one way to measure the understanding or the performance of a student. The first way is using a criteria. To determine if the students have performed well on the task, you will identify and look for characteristics of good performance called criteria. The second way is the rubric. To discriminate among the student performance across criteria, you will create a rubric. And the third way is the grading. Assessment needs to mean much more than giving students a grade. It is also a way to provide valuable feedback to further learning. Here are the examples of authentic assessment. In history, engaging the students in a role play of a particular event in history, describing what might have happened if one element of a historical event had changed. In psychology, examining a case study from multiple theoretical positions. In computer science, developing a website or app to solve a particular problem and/or meet a set of criteria. In biology or chemistry, drawing a diagram of how a process works indicating what happens if X occurs. And that would be all. Thank you and God bless.